We've looked at the top 10 cards from the Sword and Shield era, as well as the top 10 cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. But what we haven't looked at so far is the top 10 illustration rares, not secret rares, illustration rares from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And today, that's what our focus will be. We all know that the number 1 spot will be going to Magikarp, but what about spots 2 through 10? That's what I want to find out and share with you all today. So let's get it started. Landing in the number 10th spot is Bulbasaur from Pokemon 151. I am excited to see this because Bulbasaur, of course, is my favorite starter Pokemon and one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and he is in the top 10. So again, this is from Pokemon 151. We're going to be seeing quite a few cards from 151, but you'll be surprised at their positionings. So again, focusing on the Bulbasaur here, honestly, really nice card. I actually love this card, and I actually have it as well, and I have the master set of Pokemon 151. I really wanted to master that set because, again, it's just a Gen 1 set, and it's just nostalgic. Again, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Pokemon 151 is amazing. Again, just focusing on the card here, him in the forest or whatever, it's just really nice. He's just hanging out there, taking a nap or whatever it is. The good thing about this card is, again, it's not that expensive. It's only about a $22 card. Again, you could easily pick this up from any of your local retailers that sell singles, if they have it, of course, in stock. And again, it's one of those cards that I would definitely include in my collection for either collecting or for investing. And the next one is Charmeleon. And this is actually a really cool card. Of course, you guys remember the concept with this card. It's Charmander at the bottom of the cave, then Charmeleon at the midway point, if you want to call it that, and then Charizard flying out. So this is the Charmeleon card. It's going for about $23. Again, really not that expensive of a card, but it is something that you want to consider adding as well. Again, with Pokemon 151, we are still kind of in that dilemma phase where we don't know if there's going to be a reprint or not. Of course, people are thinking there is. I'm saying maybe not. Maybe they'll have some more stock, but I don't think they'll actually do a reprint. Again, we'll see what happens with that. Of course, if that does happen, the Bulbasaur and the Charmeleon and any other special illustration rares that are in this set are probably going to dip in price a little bit. So again, just be cautious with that when it comes to the Pokemon 151. Again, Charmeleon, $23, really good price. Taking the number 8 spot is Ghastly from Temporal Forces. This is actually an amazing card. The really cool thing about this card is you've got all these other Pokemon involved in it, such as the Haunter and the Gengar, and of course all the other Ghastlies. And if you look there, you've even got Meowth just hanging out there, looking at, hey, what's going on over here? Honestly, this is a really nice card, and Temporal Forces really hit it well with this one. Not an expensive card. It's about $25 right now. Something to also consider adding, again, as illustration rares are moving up slowly, specifically from the other sets, not from Pokemon 151, starting to do really well. And this may be one of those cards that does really well. And honestly, it's a really nice artwork. Probably one of my favorite artworks from the cards that we're going to look at today. And we've got 151 one more time. I promise you there's only going to be 4 of them. Yes, I gave it away. There's going to be another one. Squirtle takes the number 7 spot. Coming in at $25.81. It's really just a few cents more than the Ghastly. It does take the number 7 spot because of those few cents. And honestly, it's a nice card. I mean, like, he's on the beach just hanging out. Again, to be honest with you, it's Squirtle. Bulbasaur made the cut. For sure, Squirtle's going to make the cut. I think we all know who else is going to make the cut. $25 card, $25.80. It's not that expensive. Now, if there is a reprint, it's probably going to drop in price as well. And taking spot number 6 is Charmander, again from Pokemon 151. I feel like I'm at the awards and like the movie just keeps winning the Academy Awards. And again, it's Hurt Locker. You know what I mean? Something like that. Anyways, let's focus here. It's a really nice card as well. Charmander just hanging out at the bottom of the cave. Again, as I mentioned earlier, honestly, great price as well. $28.40. It's really, really not bad. But again, as I said, as I keep mentioning and I'm repeating myself, and I'm sorry that I'm repeating myself, if there is a reprint, this card will also dip in price. And taking the number 5th spot is Tyranitar from Paldea Evolved. Yes, something not from Pokemon 151. This is honestly a decent looking card. It's not my favorite card. I'm not like super into Tyranitar myself, nor am I super into this card, but again, it's a decent looking card, and you're going for around $33.50 over the last 3 months. It's more or less been the same. It's had its climb in May and now is slowly starting to trickle back down a little bit. Again, we're sitting around the $33. It's still really not a bad price for this card. And again, Paldea Evolved, there hasn't really been an announcement about it being reprinted yet, so I'm not too sure if there will be a reprint. This card may rise a little bit more if there isn't, of course, a reprint. All right, so we're into spot number 4, and it's Raichu taking it. Another card from Paldea Evolved. It's time for the Paldea Evolved Awards at this point. This one's going for about $41.40. It also had its climb around the beginning of May. it had a super jolt, it almost doubled in price, and then it's kind of staggered around that $41 mark and essentially has stayed there. It's a really nice card. I think it's cool. I don't actually have this card in my collection and I wouldn't mind actually getting it, but it's getting a little bit expensive, of course, and these are US dollar prices that I am speaking in if I hadn't mentioned it earlier. So again, $41 for this beautiful Raichu, just taking a snooze, and I could use a nap myself. Next up is Groudon from Paradox Rift, taking the number 3 spot. So this is actually a really nice card. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I prefer it over the Tyranitar and a bunch of the other cards that we looked at earlier today. And we have touched on this card briefly as well in one of my other videos. But again, honestly, really nice card. It's been more or less the same price over the last month or two. It topped out around the $60 mark and now is sitting at around $52. Also had its super climb around the beginning of May, just like some of the other cards that we spoke about earlier. In all honesty, it's a really nice card, and it is $52 now. It's a little bit pricey. I hope it kind of dips down a little bit so I can add one to my collection, but it is what it is, and that's the price of it, and it takes the number 3 spot. And the number 2 spot, and this was the one that we really wanted to see who was in the number 2 spot, is the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade, climbing away, currently sitting at $69. No one comes close to the second spot, of course, and it has even more room to grow. This card started off at around a $30 card and it has over doubled in price over the last couple months or so, and it's going to probably continue. We've talked about Eevee being the big heavy hitter. It may even surpass the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved and take the number 1 spot at one point. Again, it's got some work to do still because that Magikarp is really up there in price, but right now it's doing its job. It's making its way. It's climbing its way up to that $100 mark, which it will be at one point, I think, personally, in my opinion. So let's look out for that in the future, and we'll make another video in the future to see if it actually does hit that $100 mark. But again, just focusing on the card, again, we've spoken about this card quite a few times. It's probably one of the coolest Eevee cards. You've got 8 of them there. I mentioned before, it looks like it's per evolution that they have, right? So 8 Eevees, they evolve into 8 different Pokemon, and that was the concept and why they kind of made this card. And if you're a fan of Eevee, it's a must-have in your collection, in my opinion. And the number 1 card, of course, from the illustration rares is Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. And you know what? We kind of knew that already. We knew it was going to take the number 1 spot. But what we didn't know is that it's having a bit of a dip right now. It dipped from about $147 all the way down to $128. Almost a $20 drop over the last month or so. So it's actually going down in price. So if you are someone that's trying to collect this card, you know, maybe you want to consider getting it now, or maybe wait a little bit longer. If you are into the artwork itself, then maybe you want to consider grabbing it in another language because it's much cheaper, I believe, in Japanese. It's around $30 or $40 from what I remember. But again, Magikarp, Paldea Evolved, takes the number 1 spot. We all knew that. The focus of the video, again, was to get what the number 2 to 10 spot was, because I personally didn't know what it was, and I really did want to find out myself, and now we know. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. My favorite card from the top 10 is Eevee from Twilight Masquerade, and Ghastly from Temporal Forces takes the number 2 spot for me. I actually really like the artwork in that card. Again, focusing back on the Eevee, though, I do feel that at one point it may surpass the Magikarp or be at similar price as the Magikarp. And honestly, I don't think it's too easy of a card to pull. So again, look out for that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on the top 10 and which one of these cards you think are going to move closer to the number 1 or into the number 1 spot. And if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is TRV, and we'll see you next time.